I leave the meeting and head outside the palisade. The stares of all those people feel unbearable, pressing down on my shoulders like a ton of stone. As I approach the outer ridge overlooking the valley, the crushing realization sets in. I let them down. I let this bitter feeling settle in my chest as I observe Blackpond from a distance. At first glance, it is glaringly obvious that this village has seen its best days pass. The wooden palisade is uneven, the timber rotting and decaying in several places. Beyond the walls, the fields are dull, entirely lacking the vivid color of life and green. Even where sparse crops are desperately reaching out to the sun, there are massive black spots in the soil where absolutely nothing grows. "This is a dead place," I murmur under my breath. But as the words leave my mouth, the depression vanishes. A sudden, fierce flame of anger rises up to replace it. Fuck this. The village might be dead, but I am alive, and I will do whatever it takes to help as many of these people survive as I can. With this new resolution, a fresh plan and a dangerous spark of hope begin to take shape. With this fire burning in my chest, I descend back into the village and wait in the shadows until the meeting concludes. It takes a few agonizing hours. When the doors finally open, the decision is finalized. The newly formed council will remain in charge until further notice, and they have agreed to accept the wizard's horrific demands. The list of children to be sacrificed will be announced in due time, though they claim any volunteers are welcome. What a sick joke. Everyone in that room knows the children will be taken by force from the poorest families. To keep suspicion away from my actual plan, I approach Deborah the moment the hall clears. When we are finally alone, she wears a victorious, venomous smile. "I told you that you are weak," she says, a heavy hinge of cruelty in her voice. "Call it what you want, Deborah, but be aware that goodness is not weakness," I reply evenly, refusing to give her the satisfaction of my anger. "On the contrary, I hope you will see that one day." She scoffs, her eyes cold. "Oh yeah? What is your goodness good for now that you've lost any influence here?" Deborah continues. "We are officially still married, and you are a chief out of order. They say it's just until the council reinstates you, but you know how it goes. A crisis can last a lifetime, and you will never come back." She continues to harass me, trying to twist the knife, but I let it wash over me. Because of the new plan forming in my mind, I counter her with calculated ease. "You are right that I don't have any official influence in Blackpond anymore," I say, stepping into her space. "But you are forgetting that I still have most of the poor people on my side, and you don't want a coup, do you?" Deborah is caught off guard. She clearly did not expect me to hit back like this. She recovers quickly, narrowing her eyes. "A coup, you say? It would undoubtedly end in bloodshed, and that is the absolute last thing you would ever want." She is right, but I push the bluff further. "Yes, you're right, but you never know what a hunted animal backed into a corner will do. And I must say, Deborah, you are pushing me pretty tight into one." Leaving that threat hanging in the heavy air, I turn and walk out of the room. I need her to be acutely aware that she cannot just do whatever she wants without consequences. Although, as I walk away, a chill runs down my spine. I wonder if I just made a fatal mistake. Now, she will be extremely vigilant. I immediately seek out Emanu. He is the one person in all of Blackpond I trust the most. In the hushed shadows of an alley, I lay out my escape plan, and without hesitation he agrees. However, a heavy concern hangs over both of us. Scar still hasn't returned from his diplomatic mission to the City of Wardens. It is a much longer trip than the journey to Cots. But even so, he should be back by now if the audience was quick. This terrifying possibility lingers constantly in the back of my mind, and I can see the same dread reflected in Emanu's eyes. We decide that I will execute my plan tomorrow night. Emanu will stay behind and wait for Scar, just in the unlikely event we miss him on the road to the Great Plain villages. We agree to meet up later, perhaps after a few weeks or even months. Together, we carefully select trusted members from the militia. Emmanuel ensures that only these right, trusted people will be on patrol during the night of the escape. These loyal men are instructed to secretly inform the poorest parents, giving them the perilous choice to leave with us. We are going to run from Blackpond to seek sanctuary in the Great Plain villages. To protect the operation, I make sure I am not in direct contact with anyone involved in the escape. Everything goes through Emmanuel, Boris, and Laris, men I trust entirely not to sell us out. In the dead middle of the second night, the others and I visit the terrified families who might be on Deborah's and the council's list to be handed over to the wizards. Moving through the shadows, ensuring absolutely nobody is following us, we rendezvous at the western gate where the trusted militiamen are on watch. As the silhouettes emerge from the darkness, a staggering number of families have joined me. Out of the 20 families we visited, 14 have come, gambling everything on the hope of a better future. Some are desperate mothers clutching kids whose men are no longer around, while others come as whole families. In total, we are 36 people. It is a massive group, and it is an absolute miracle that we weren't spotted or intercepted by Deborah's loyalists. Or perhaps we were, and she was simply too afraid to trigger a real coup. Who knows? One thing is certain. I am not going to find out, because we are never coming back. We head north, following the old Trader's Road. It is well preserved enough that we can follow the hard-packed dirt even in the pitch-black darkness of the forest. I take the lead at the head of the group, my hand resting on my blade, while Laris guards the rear. We are moving agonizingly slowly. We have 16 small children in our ranks, along with heavily pregnant women. We carry only the bare essentials, heavy clothing against the cold and enough food for just a few days. We march relentlessly through the terrifying, rustling woods until morning breaks, finally stopping to catch our breath. We are resting almost on the very edge of the Great Plain. For most of these people, this will be the first time they see an environment that isn't a dense forest. As we resume the march and step past the final tree line, the landscape opens up into the vast expanse of the Great Plain. A palpable sense of awe sweeps through our exhausted group. I think seeing this endless horizon gives some of them a fragile sliver of hope, making them realize that Aegis is far more than just Blackpond. The Great Plains are a sprawling, endless grassland, though the grass is not nearly as green as it used to be. Nevertheless, it still provides enough sustenance to support the cattle, which is the primary source of food out here. We arrive at the first village on the trade road right at evening that day. It is a small settlement called Ursa. I desperately hope the leader is still my old friend, Dido. Before entering the perimeter, I instruct the group to wait outside in the tall grass and rest. I need to speak with the chief of Ursa first. As I walk into the village, a cold knot tightens in my stomach. The occupants are highly avoidant. They act as if they are minding their own business, turning their heads and refusing to acknowledge an outsider. It looks like they might even be afraid. I head straight for Dido's home, a sturdy stone farmhouse. Even though Dido is the leader, he is first and foremost a hard worker for his village. As I step inside the dimly lit room, I force a warm smile and embrace him. "It's been years, my old friend," I say, genuinely relieved to see a familiar face. Dido replies, but his voice is heavy with profound sadness and exhaustion. "It has been too long, Dan. Too long." As we sit down at his wooden table and discuss the current situation, a horrifying reality becomes clear. I learn that all the villages across the Great Plain are now under the strict, suffocating control of the city of wardens and the wizards. They are actively cooperating with one another, ruling over the scattered farmsteads with an iron fist. The villages are forced to pay exorbitant fees in both food and coins for absolutely everything. Worse, they are strictly forbidden from making pacts or alliances with anyone without explicit permission. I desperately plead for the safety of our group, begging him to look the other way, but looking into Dido's terrified eyes, I understand him. If I were in his shoes, I would probably do the exact same thing. He is just a man trying to protect his own people from a slaughter. At the end of my pleading, Dido undertakes a massive, terrifying risk and agrees to take just one family into an empty house. By the end of the day, I am standing back outside in the wind with 31 people, mostly vulnerable children and women, and we have absolutely no place to go. I decide to set up a small, temporary camp on the very edge of the plains, shivering against the coming night. Over the next few days, I travel to every single village in the region, speaking with old friends and new leaders. After days of an exhausting, humiliating journey, a few villages agree to accept a handful of people simply because they are desperate for workers. At the end of it all, I am left standing in the dying grass with 18 people, plus myself and Laris. I stare out at the bleak horizon. I see no other choice left. We have nowhere else to go except the city of wardens. As the cold wind bites through my cloak, a sickening dread settles deep in my stomach. I am deeply afraid that this battle is already lost.